Hello, everybody. Are you excited? We're gonna take off in several days. However, before we take off, we have to learn a little bit about China, especially how the China's business and economic situation look like. So in this first lecture, we're gonna learn the China's geographical setting, and you must curious about where we're gonna visit, where the city we're gonna visit located in China. And the most important, the reason we are learning this chapter is try to understand the natural endowment of China which has already had a significant impact on China's business and economic development. So first of all, I will share the China's map with you guys. So this is the China's map. So in China, people believe this map look like a rooster. So if you can use your imagination, you can feel this part is look like the head of the rooster, and this part is you can feel this part look like the head of the rooster and the tails, and then the little legs. So it's look like a rooster. And so we're gonna take off from Pittsburgh, and we're gonna land in Shanghai. So we will land in Shanghai and spend several days in Shanghai, visit JP Morgan, and look at the Sky Rocks. And also we're gonna visit one of the school called Shanghai University, and I had a lot of interaction with the student from Shanghai University. And after that, we're gonna take the fast train to go to Zibo, which is here. And the Zibo actually is the sister city of Erie. And the reason is we share the same latitude. And so in Zibo, we're going to visit one of the sister school of our university. And then after the visit, and we'll move to the north part, and we're going to land in Beijing. And we'll spend several days in Beijing visiting the Great Wall and learning political economics in China. And then after that, then we flew back to New York, and then Erie, and then Pittsburgh. So that is our general city we're gonna visit. So generally speaking, all of the trip is at the east part of China. And these three cities are very important. As I already mentioned, Zibo is a sister city to Erie. And so especially you're looking for job around this area, you have to know who is our sister cities, right? And so the another two cities, Beijing and Shanghai, are very important. Shanghai is the financial center for China, and also it is financial center for Asia. And Beijing is the political center of China. So if I try to try to find the similar city, corresponding city in United States, so Beijing is like Washington D.C. and Shanghai is like New York City. And so in this special chapter, we're going to look at how the landforms, the climate and water, and the provinces and the regions and the mineral resources of China look like. As I said, our main goal is trying to understand how this kind of natural endowment affecting the China's business and economic development. So first, I want to mention that China is the most populous nation, and in the following chapter, we're actually going to look at how large the population is in China in 2017-18, and also how one-child policy affecting China's population growth. And so also China is one of the largest countries with the third biggest landmass after Russia and Canada. And actually, China land area is 2% greater than that of the United States. And the interesting part is the China resembles geographically with the U.S. So the two countries cover similar latitudes. That's why we can find our sister city in China, which is Zibo, and had a similar range of the climate conditions. And this similarity leads to numerous parallels between regions and in the east half of both countries. So east half of the country in the United States and east half of the country in China most developed region in both countries. So we're going to spend a lot of time to discuss how China's business and economics look like, especially the eastern region where we're going to visit in China. So first of all, we're going to look at how the landmass of China look like. So one thing I want to mention is Chinese landmass tilts from west to east. So what does that mean? So that means the west part have relatively higher altitude than the east coast. So generally speaking, Chinese separated the Chinese landmass into three steppes. So the top steppes is the Tibetan plateaus, so which is this area. So Tibetan plateaus. And so on average, their altitude is more than 13,000 feet. It's pretty high. And so they don't have a lot of population live there because who want to live in the area have very high altitude. That means have less oxygen there. And the second step is between 3,000 feet to 7,000 feet. So that including the northwestern China, so which is and also the inner Mongolian plateau, which is here, and the Yunnan and the Guizhou plateau, and also Chengdu, Chongqing. So this is the second step. And the third step is the area where below 1,600 feet, which is this area, and actually that's where we're gonna visit during this trip. So for me, I grew up in Yunnan province, which is here, and then I traveled to the East Coast, Shanghai, to have my college there. So if you want to ask me what's the difference, and I want to let you know there is a lot of difference. The first difference I feel is the amount of people I'm gonna meet in every square footage. So where I grew up, Yunnan province, has relatively less people. And however, once I moved to Shanghai, and then that's a huge city, I just very crowded. So actually, it's not surprising. So actually, in China, we have a, a line. People draw a line to from the town of Anhui, which is about here. So the town of Anhui to my home province here. Let me redraw this line. So they drew a line from Anhui to my home province here, which is called Tenchong in the southwest province of Yunnan. So the reason they drew this line is try to divide China in two halves. So the west, northwest, and the southeast. And what people found is only 6% of the population lives in the dry mountainous west. So which is in this area, we only have 6% of the population. And the rest of the 94% of the population actually live in the east, half of the country. So it's not surprising since you guys already learned economic class before. So the human capital is a very important resource to grow the economy. So naturally, you only have 6% population living in the west, but we have 96% people living on the east. So the east coast, the east part of China have much better economic situation than the west. And then you're gonna ask me why China still keep the west. The same question can ask American. So the east coast is pretty well developed. The northwest is less developed. Why the Americans still keep the west coast, or northwest? So when we are thinking about economic growth, the resource is all very, very important. In the future chapter, we're going to discuss the west part. So west part has less population. However, they have a lot of natural resource endowment like petroleum gas and coal and the scarce resource on the west more than the east. And so generally speaking, when we look at the landforms of China, China actually is very hilly because you can see for this division line, the west section is much larger than the east section. And so China is very hilly, so which means it's really hard to developing advanced agriculture section. It doesn't like the United States. So United States have a very flat Midwest. So that's where the farmer grow a lot of corn, soybeans. However, that's not the case in China. So the flat area actually is located in the north of the China. So that's why north of China actually is the earliest had the really good economy at the very beginning of this at the beginning of the economy. and so they have relatively flat land, and then the rest of the part of the China actually is very hilly.